Good morning, everyone. It's Monday, May 17th, coming to you live from Seoul. I'm Kim Mo-gen. Before we begin, these are the stories we're following at the top of the hour. South Korea will compensate people who develop severe side effects after getting vaccinated, regardless of whether a causal link between the vaccine and the symptoms is proven beginning today. Israeli strikes on Gaza City flattened 3 buildings and killed 42 more people on Sunday alone, marking one of the deadliest days so far in the week-long conflict. And South Korean golfer Lee Kyoung-hoon entered the winner's circle for the first time on the PGA Tour on Sunday, becoming the 8th South Korean to win on the PGA Tour. Our top story this morning, South Korea confirmed 619 new COVID-19 cases Monday, inching slightly down due to fewer tests over the weekend. As for vaccinations, the government has decided to compensate people who develop severe side effects after getting vaccinated, regardless of whether a causal link between the vaccine and the symptoms is proven. And starting this weekend, the country also aims to resume rollout of first shots of the Pfizer vaccine. Eun-ji has our top story.
Starting Monday, the South Korean government has decided to compensate people who develop severe side effects after getting vaccinated, even if they cannot prove a direct causal link between the vaccine and the symptoms. They can receive up to 10 million Korean won, or about $8,800. Previously, government compensation for vaccine side effects were limited to cases where a causal link was proven. Those eligible can sign up for the aid at their local public health centers.
Vaccination can contain the risk of the spread of widespread infection and cluster infections that have been appearing at nursing homes.
So far, roughly 7.3% of South Korea's total population have received the first jabs of their COVID-19 vaccines. And the figure for those who have gotten their second shots stands at around 1.8%. The country's COVID-19 vaccination task force has asked citizens aged 75 and older to schedule their appointments within this week. This comes as the nation plans to resume offering first doses of the Pfizer vaccine on Saturday to 2.4 million people. If the planned vaccinations are completed in the coming weeks, more than 80% of the target population, which includes senior citizens aged 75 and over, will have been vaccinated. And throughout the day, 1.68 million doses of the AstraZeneca vaccine, produced at a manufacturing plant in Andong City, will be distributed across the country. Eun-ji, Arirang News.
Meanwhile, the government vowed to provide more incentives for people who get fully vaccinated, such as giving them the green light to travel overseas by signing vaccine passport deals with other countries. Lee Kun-hee reports.
In a bid to boost public participation, South Korean Prime Minister Kim Bo-kyun plans to provide more incentives to people who get fully vaccinated. In a briefing Sunday, Kim expressed hope of returning to normalcy by September when herd immunity is achieved, citing the example of the U.S., where CDC guidelines say fully vaccinated people no longer have to wear masks. But he added that doesn't mean quickly loosening the distancing rules, pointing to the UK, where measures are still in place, even when half of its population has been vaccinated.
I ask related ministries to devise a set of incentives for fully vaccinated people to the extent these measures don't harm the country's containment efforts.
These measures would include signing vaccine passport deals with other countries and issuing vaccine certificates on paper in addition to the digital ones. South Korea is trying to boost participation as it takes vaccine reservations for people over 60. Some 48% of eligible recipients have signed up, but the Prime Minister called for greater participation, stressing that the vaccine is safe. And in their briefing the same day, the health authorities said there are enough doses for the campaign to go ahead as planned.
The government has more than enough vaccine doses to inoculate 13 million people by the end of June, as promised. Now it's time to focus our efforts on the actual inoculations, not the supply.
Lee Kun-hee, Arirang News.
Despite being considered success stories in containing COVID-19, Singapore and Taiwan are now imposing aggressive restrictions as they are seeing a resurgence in cases. And over in the UK, it's going ahead with its lifting of lockdown measures despite a rise in Indian variants. Lee Kun-hee has the story.
At one point, Singapore and Taiwan were considered among a handful of success stories when it came to containing COVID-19. But now, both countries are imposing new measures as they are facing a resurgence in cases. In Singapore, indoor dining was banned from last Friday, and people will now be working from home as the city-state reimposed measures last in place a year ago. In Taiwan, the authorities are calling on people to stay indoors after a record 180 new cases were reported Saturday. Indoor family and social gatherings in Taipei will be limited to 5 people, while outdoor gatherings will be restricted to 10. The resurgence is also threatening the reopening of regional travel between the two countries. Singapore previously allowed travelers from Taiwan to enter without quarantine. However, starting Saturday, it banned entry of short-term visitors with a travel history to Taiwan in the past 21 days. It also now requires citizens, permanent residents, and long-term pass holders to quarantine upon arrival. Taiwan also raised Singapore to medium risk from a group of low-risk nations, which includes New Zealand and Australia, citing the recent surge. Singapore and Taiwan were seen as success stories in COVID-19 containment, where its citizens went about their daily lives without fear of infection. Taiwan didn't have a single domestic case between April and December, while Singapore was named the best place to be in the COVID-19 era by Bloomberg's COVID-19 resilience ranking. In Europe, UK Health Minister Matt Hancock on Sunday expressed confidence that the UK would be able to fully lift lockdown measures despite an uptick in the India variants. According to the health secretary, while the variant is more transmissible, early lab data showed vaccines remained effective. He added a final decision will be made on June 14th. Lee Kun-hee, Arirang News.
There have been between 7 to 13 million unreported COVID-19 deaths worldwide over the course of the pandemic, according to The Economist magazine. It explains that its modeling shows the official global death toll represents at best under half of true fatalities and at worst about a quarter. It said the official number of deaths in Africa are significantly underestimated, saying they don't include those who died at home. Excess deaths are typically defined as the difference between the observed numbers of deaths over a specific time period and the usual or expected number. With no end in sight to 7 days of fighting between Israel and Gaza, at least 190 people have been killed since the violence started. Now, despite international efforts to broker a ceasefire, Israel's prime minister says the battle goes on. Our Kim Hyo-sun with more.
Israeli strikes in Gaza City flattened 3 buildings and killed 42 more people on Sunday alone, marking one of the deadliest days so far in the week-long conflict. Citing Palestinian officials, Reuters reports at least 190 people have been killed over the past week in Gaza, with another 1,100 wounded. It added Israel reports 10 Israelis have been killed and at least 560 have been injured. On Sunday, Israeli airstrikes hit the HQ of Hamas political wing in a densely populated residential area. Israel has been targeting a number of tall offices and residential buildings in Gaza, saying they contain Hamas military infrastructure. Among them was a building also housing Associated Press journalists. Following the attack, Israel's prime minister explained Israel has received backup from the U.S. and hinted its fight will continue.
Our battle against the terror organization continues in full force. We are charging very heavy prices from Hamas for their unbearable aggression. The Israel Defense Forces carried out attacks on more than 1,500 targets during the last days.
This comes amid international efforts to halt violence. The UN Security Council met Sunday to discuss the situation, calling for an end to the conflict as well as the resumption of peace talks.
The senseless cycle of bloodshed, terror and destruction must stop immediately. All parties must respect international humanitarian law and international human rights law. The status quo at the holy sites must be upheld and respected.
Pointing out that the UN Security Council was not able to reach consensus, China's representative said all members need to take necessary efforts to safeguard peace and security in the region. Kim Hye-sun, Arirang News.
Russia's defense ministry says a British Navy patrol vessel has entered Black Sea waters. The incident comes amid rising tensions as NATO activities have recently increased near Russia's borders. The ministry says the Russian Navy in the Black Sea is tracking the British vessel. A top Russian admiral earlier complained that NATO's presence is a threat to regional security. The British embassy in Turkey says the British vessel is passing through on its way to southern Ukraine and was accompanied by the Turkish Coast Guard. Now we turn to our economic calendar for the week ahead, both here and abroad. South Korea is set to announce details of household income and expenditure in the first quarter and to release the producer price index for April. And over in the U.S., the Department of Commerce is holding a virtual meeting on the semiconductor shortage with South Korea's Samsung invited. Seo Eun-kyung reports.
The U.S. Department of Commerce is to hold a virtual meeting on the global shortage of semiconductors on Thursday local time. Both chip suppliers and consumers, including Samsung, TSMC of Taiwan, and General Motors, were invited. Since the meeting will take place the day before a summit between South Korea's President Moon Jae-in and U.S. President Joe Biden, there is a high possibility that the two leaders would discuss a way of establishing a stable supply chain for semiconductors. On the same day, Statistics Korea will announce household income and expenditure in the first quarter of 2021. Its latest report showed that COVID-19 brought down the incomes of both employees and the self-employed and hit low-income earners especially hard. In the fourth quarter of last year, the average monthly income of employees dropped 0.5% on year. However, the drop was unequal. Employees belong to households in the bottom 20% of the income basket saw their monthly income plunge over 13%. On the other hand, people in the top 20% of households saw their wages increase by nearly 2%. As for people who are self-employed, their monthly income dropped almost 5%, marking the biggest decline since 2003 when relevant data started being compiled. Statistics Korea said that strict social distancing measures and the resurgence of COVID-19 during the fourth quarter directly hit self-employed business owners. As it has been more than 1 year since coronavirus first broke out, all eyes are on whether the pressure on low-income earners will be mitigated in its aftermath. On Friday, the Bank of Korea is scheduled to release the Producer Price Index, a key barometer of future consumer inflation, for April. The March figures show that the index increased for the fifth consecutive month. It was up 0.9% on month and 3.9% on year. The central bank stated the increase was led mainly by higher prices of industrial goods due to the upward trend in global oil prices. As oil and raw material prices continue to rise in April, the producer price is largely expected to rise again in that month. Seo Eun-kyung, Arirang News.
Tesla CEO Elon Musk is again stirring up crypto markets with his tweets. He has implied that Tesla would soon dump its Bitcoin holdings or might have already done so. When a Twitter user speculated on Sunday, U.S. local time, that Musk would sell Bitcoin, he replied with one word: indeed. This vague message led the price of Bitcoin to plunge, dipping almost 8.5% on Sunday afternoon. It was the cryptocurrency's largest slump in roughly 3 months. The potential sale comes after Musk announced last week that Tesla would no longer accept Bitcoin as payment until it shifts to more sustainable energy use. Most of the enormous art collection donated by late Samsung Group chair Lee Kun-hee has been moved to 2 famous museums here in South Korea. But some pieces went to museums in other regions where they are set to be unveiled to the public. Kim Bo-kyung tells us more.
Nestled in the countryside in the small county of Yanggu, Gangwon-do province and surrounded by birch trees is the Park Soo-gun Museum. It was established in 2002 to honor the modern Korean artist in his hometown. When Hong Na-hee, the widow of the late Samsung Group chairman Lee Kun-hee, visited the museum not long after its establishment, she made the suggestion of creating a birch tree forest and donated trees to help. Ties between the museum and the Yi family have lasted until this day, enabling them to make donations of Park Soo-gun's artwork.
The museum received a total of 18 of the artist's paintings, 4 oil paintings and 14 drawings. Park's paintings are simple and modest, yet they portray the everyday lives of regular people in a heartwarming way.
Park is known for displaying empathy toward people's sorrows during the Korean War through his work, and also for his unique technique of imparting physical textures onto the painting itself. One of the 4 donated oil paintings is a girl who carries the baby.
The one showing a girl looking ahead is a very rare piece. Though things would have been difficult for her during that period, she has a warm smile on her face. This is typical of how Park liked to portray people.
Experts say donating priceless art is good for the local economy and the reputation of the museums.
When you take a look at other museums abroad, they have a donation culture and exhibition halls honoring the donors. We're planning to make one too in a few years. I hope we see more of this in Korea.
But this is not the only regional museum to receive artwork donations of hometown artists. Daegu Art Museum will show to the public in June 21 donated pieces, including works by modern artist Lee In-sung. The Ijungsop Art Museum on Jeju Island received 12 pieces and is planning an exhibition for September. That's also when the Jeonnam Museum of Art is preparing to showcase 21 pieces of work by artists such as Chun Kyung-ja and Kim Wan-gi. Kim Bo-kyung, Arirang News, Yanggu.
Now in sports, South Korean Lee Kyoung-hoon has captured his first PGA Tour victory, becoming the 8th South Korean player to win on the PGA Tour. The 29-year-old won the AT&T Byron Nelson in Texas on Sunday local time, shooting a 6-under-66 as he fought through heavy rain and a soaked golf course. Play was halted due to rain and a thunderstorm, but he managed to make 8 birdies in the weather-interrupted final round, picking up a winner's check of nearly $1.5 million. He also cracked the top 100 in the official world golf ranking for the first time to reach 59th place. Rafael Nadal on Sunday beat longtime rival Novak Djokovic at the International Biennale d'Italia, giving him a record-extending 10th Rome title. The Spanish star defeated the Serbian in 3 sets, 7-5, 1-6, 6-3. It's the 4th time Nadal has been beaten Djokovic in the Rome final. The victory also earns Nadal a 36th ATP Masters 1000 title, equaling Djokovic's record. He now has 88 career tour-level victories, the 4th most in history. For people who've suffered brain damage from a stroke or other trauma, the damage has usually been permanent to some degree. The best hope is rehabilitation to hopefully restore some lost brain function. But local researchers have found an enzyme that interferes with the recovery process, and that could lead to the development of drugs that can help recovery. Yoon-jin reports.
Stroke patients who survive the bursting or clogging of an artery often suffer devastating long-term damage to their health. As brain cells die, patients can lose their language and motor skills. Currently, there is no definite treatment, leaving rehabilitation as the only option for patients to regain some of those functions.
It's not that the functions are regained from brain neurons being repaired. Adjacent neurons partially replace the function, or remaining stem cell is renewed into a neuron to take on the function.
A joint team of researchers at the Korea Institute of Science and Technology and Gyeongbuk National University found that there's a special protein that helps damaged brain cells recover. The heaven calcium protein bond allows surrounding neurons to make more connections. However, the team further confirmed that if the brain is damaged and inflamed, a special enzyme is secreted that blocks the making of proteins that help with recovery.
We found that there is a protease called MMP3, which increases significantly in reaction to inflammation, and animal testing showed that an excess of the MMP3 protease significantly delayed neuron repair.
The next step for the research team is to find a way to suppress the enzyme that interferes with the brain's recovery. 이은진, Arirang News.
Good morning. It's a murky start to the day in most parts of the country, and there will be more sporadic showers across the country. The capital region and western areas will see light rain going away from this afternoon, while other regions will see 5 to 30 millimeters of more rainfall through tonight. Morning temperatures were in the low to mid-teens, and highs will not rise that much in the afternoon. Seoul, Daegu, Gwangju, and Busan will only make it to 19 degrees Celsius this afternoon with passing showers, but air quality will be normal to good nationwide. But today should be the last day of the season with highs in the teens in the capital, considering we are already into the mid-May. Much warmer temperatures will return tomorrow in Seoul and other inland areas, including Chuncheon. Warmer than average temperatures will carry on, then nationwide rain on Thursday will bring cooler air to the country on Friday. That's Korea for you, and here's a look at the weather conditions around the world.
And that will do it for us at this hour on Arirang News. We'll be back at noon Korea time, so stay tuned. Thank you for watching and goodbye.